Welcome everybody. This is our second video in the series, and this is Chef Frank Murphy at North Bend High School, Culinary Arts. Today I was going to go and kind of start off some of the basic things, kind of setting up knives, cutting boards, how to set up your cutting board, and tell you a little bit about knives. So, of course, the very first thing is we got to wash our hands, okay? Nice and soap, and we're all, I think, well able to wash our hands at this stage. But so I just had washed my hands and coming over, looking at my cutting board, and this board is a nylon board. These are perfect. You know, this size can go right in a dishwasher. Sanitize it, very important. You want to get one that's a bit good thickness to it. If you get one that's too thin, they tend to warp. I picked this up at Cash and Carry or United Grocers, whatever. And I want to say it was less than 20 bucks, $16 or something. And this will last quite a while. So I've got that. But here's the problem. When we put a cutting board on a table, it wants to move around while we're using our knives. And sometimes you'll end up, start off on one side of your table, and then you end up on the other side as you follow your cutting board. That can be dangerous. So the very first thing I do, I'll get myself a damp towel. I've got one right here. And I just put it down on the table. You don't have to buy anything special or any of these mats and stuff that they try and sell you. A towel, flat, or even some kitchen towel, kitchen paper, something like that. Just damp it, put it down. And then you put your board on top. And now your chopping board will not move. Now you might say to me, why do I need a chopping board like this? Well, wood or this nylon stuff is perfect. What you do not want to do is to use any of your knives on a kitchen table or on a work surface. It's going to do two things. One, it's going to scrape up your worktop, but the second, it's going to destroy your knives. Now, whether it's a $20 knife or whether it's a $200 knife, it will get destroyed if you try to use it on a hard surface. So I know some people have those glass cutting boards. Not a good idea. I think glass is pretty tough stuff, and it will blunt your knives. So let me go through some knives here that I have in front of me. I've got a couple of French knives or chopping knives here. These are all different, kind of a little bit different, some bigger ones, but there's also a kind of a, this one here is a $20 knife or so. Perfect for starting off. Again, it's a United Grocers. This one happens to be a Victorinox. They're stamped, easy to sharpen. Good size. It's about a 10-inch blade. I find the students, this works really well with them. So that's one. This one here, you know, slightly upgraded one. This is a Henkel. It's probably about a $120 knife. Very nice. This is a forged, which it's got a nicer blade and stuff on it. This is what you would want to work yourself up to. This one here is kind of my baby. This I had bought 1982 or 83 or something like that back home in Dublin. It cost me 3 weeks' wages. I've had it everywhere I worked. And it is just, it's a beautiful knife. It's heavy. I can chop all day with it. I'm not even sure if they make it anymore, but it's a wuss stuff, and it's just just love this knife. So chopping knives, this is kind of the thing that you'll use 90% of the time. So if I'm, say if one of my kids is going off to college or something, or they're going out and they're getting their own apartment, I want to set them up. One of the things maybe I would get them is a little knife set. I would get them one of these first, number one. Chopping knife, French knife. But you cannot get a knife without having a steel. So chopping knife and a steel. This is what's going to keep the edge, and we will go through this on another video of how to look after knives. Really easy to do. You do not need to have electric grinders or anything like that to sharpen a knife. In fact, that will just destroy your knife. And one of the reasons why this knife has lasted so long is it has never seen an electric grinder. It's had a steel and an oil stone, and that's what I use. So this is two things, right? Chopping knife and a steel. The next thing maybe would be a small knife. We would call these office knives or vegetable knives. Don't spend too much money on these. They tend to go missing. But you want to have one that has a decent blade, not something that's too frail, and definitely not something that has lots of little teeth in it. By the way, that goes the same for the chopping knife. There are plenty of knives out there that have these little teeth, and we're talking about culinary and not plumbing or metalwork. You see that on the advert where he cuts through the copper pipe. We're just cutting vegetables, okay? So just a regular knife, and that would give us 3 knives. That could start you off. You could do everything you want to do with that. You want to add to that maybe a boning knife. This one here. This one's got a little kind of a curved blade. Again, I bought this at about the same time as this, and it has seen a lot of work. And I have another one here. I just get it in my box of tricks. Yeah. So we have it here. So these are 2 boning knives. Again, in another video, I'll show you how to cut up a chicken and stuff, and this is the type of knife we would use. If you were stuck, you can use one of these, but this makes it so much easier. So I'll just put that down. What would I go for next? Maybe a carving knife. This again has just got a straight blade. If I roast a chicken or a turkey or a piece of pork and I want to carve it down, this is perfect for that. It's got a narrow blade so it doesn't stick to the meat. These little scallops make it, I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but it slides through the meat a lot easier. So that would be that one. Next thing, maybe some people would say you need a fork. So this is a meat fork. But be careful with these things. A lot of people use this the wrong way. I see people go to their house or whatever and they're cooking some nice steaks on the grill, and those steaks can be spendy. And they take a meat fork and they stick it in the meat and they flip it over. What happens? They put little holes in the meat and the juices come out, and that's what we're trying to keep in when we're cooking steaks. We don't want dry steak. If you're using a meat fork, only stick it in the fat part of the steak or whatever, or anything that you're flipping over. Don't just stick it right in the center. So meat fork. And then after that, there's all these fancy knives. You know, if you're into fishing and you're cooking up, well, a fillet knife. Very similar to the boning knife, except it's got a very flexible blade. And this helps when you're taking the skin, etc., off a fillet of fish. And kind of handy, but you don't have to have one of those. Now, after that, there's all sorts of things, from oyster shuckers to this one here would be a great one for if you were cutting up your own steaks. It's just a big meat knife. I would also then go, and if I was doing this for my kids or whatever, I would buy them a plastic toolbox, Walmart or whatever, a few bucks, and a little lock, so that they could put their knives in there and they keep it for themselves. Because there's one thing probably people realize about chefs is you do not touch our knives. Our knives are our tools, and we want to keep them that way. So having a little toolbox and put them in there, and that's they're locked up, and only you use your own knife. So that was a little overview of knives there. The next one, we'll talk about how to use these knives. And thanks for tuning in. And I'm Chef Frank at North Bend High School. Thank you.